like, why did you paint this? I don't know. I was thinking like of a blowjob and...
That's always like been like an odd question. It's like, now what went through your mind whenever you came up with this? It's like, fuck man, I don't know. Like, I hadn't slept for 3 days and a song came to me.
The first thing on the podcast is going to be Brian saying, blowjob?
I did that in an art critique at school. I didn't have anything to paint, so I did like this abstract. It was like 5 foot by 5 foot, this like girl's head, and she was bald for some reason. I don't know why that happened, and it was a blowjob, you know. And so during their critique, I thought it was really funny that all the girls were like, "Ooh, wow, I really like this one. I like the movement of the." And it was like, so I like hit my friend, and I'm like, "It's a blowjob." And so all the girls really liked that one. None of the guys did. I just thought that was really interesting.
It was the top of her head.
Yeah, it was like I was in like a Mad Max kind of phase back then, so like all the girls I painted had bald heads.
Oh, okay.
For some
It's
reason.
very progressive of you. I like that.
But really nice lips.
Really ahead of the times. And behind him at the same time.
But yeah, so it was cool. And I have some slides. I'll have to bring you some slides and show you that painting. I gave it to a friend of mine.
Got some slides. What do you mean? Like?
Yeah, you'd have to make slides of all your work to send around to galleries and things.
Mm-hmm. They'll do it on a projector, so you'll...
I was thinking like microscope slides.
Yeah.
Well, they're kind of like that. I'm sure now they'll use like something just like PowerPoint or something, but like, and a lot of the places they would use this projector. It's got like this what would you call it, a Rolodex that like it's like a mag where you can put like 1,000 of these little like slides, and they're like 2 inch by 1 inch, and it's got a little photograph of your art on it, and it would,
I guess it like you can see the colors and the textures better than like just say like a picture of it. I guess is the reason they do that.
Really?
But yeah,
there was this old South Park where it was hinted at, it was revealed that the reason why Broadway shows and musicals are so popular as women's because it's all about subliminal blowjob context. And somebody clues Randy into this, and like he, like I think it was Nelson, one of his buddies from work, is like I took my wife to Broadway. Got a blowjob for about 3 hours in the car afterwards. He's like, what?
Wait,
so that everybody starts bringing their wives to Broadway or something like that?
No, Randy decides to write his own musical. And his does not really have a lot of like subtlety to it. It's like there's like one song, it's like a solo where she's like, I'm the queen of blowjobs. So like all these guys like Sondheim and Elton John, they get pissed off at Randy because it's supposed to be like that they don't know that it's about a blowjob, and that's why it'll make them like horny.
What does Elton John care?
that's fine.
I think it was just because it was his territory. Like,
Does it like work on guys too?
it might.
Does Elton John like?
He has a husband, so I would hope he likes guys. Otherwise, that's a sham marriage.
I guess if you're prone to enjoy doing that, then you would probably pick up on the subtleties of the theme.
Well, maybe I should avoid Broadway.
What are you saying?
I don't want anything to.
Oh, man.
Again, this is a family-friendly show, and rated TVG.
Yeah.
What's the G stand for?
Goddamn. That the die I put on the table because I would have some people that would come in if there was like pens or pencils, they would like start like drumming and shit, and like it gets picked up by the mic like super duper like easily. So I was like, what's something that they can fidget with that they're not gonna like
Without like.
banging the table with, because unless they're just sitting here and just like compulsively like rolling the die like over and over
They
again.
might need professional
Gambling
help after
addiction, you're like, that's a die.
I ain't touched a die in 38 years.
This is actually a nice dye.
I think it's from the Paris.
Paris, Las Vegas. Is that where Paris is?
What?
They moved it there. They did move the original London Bridge to Nevada.
What?
Yeah, I was watching Ghost Adventure. Ever watch
Get
Ghost
out.
Adventures?
No, but like,
Yeah, so they.
did the ghosts go with them? Like,
Well, that was supposedly all the deaths and people jumping off of or whatever, the spirits had followed the bridge. But yeah, I couldn't believe that.
why would they move the London Bridge? Like, just to say, like this is the original fucking London Bridge.
Like I
Put it right
Falling
here.
down.
I want other people to watch it just so I'll know that I'm not insane. But I watched it twice, and
How big is it?
they said it was the original London Bridge.
Because I'm sure they
And
do
who
it
got
cheap.
that contract?
It's freaking.
Moving to like, holy shit.
But yeah, so they
Yes.
dismantled
They
it
just-
like
they
brick
just
by
gonna
brick.
Set us up,
Yeah.
Martha. We'll
And
never have to
brought it
move
over.
again.
Is it haunted or something?
Yeah, so supposedly,
It reminds me of something. So when you were talking to Ted on his podcast, we're talking about ghosts and hallways, and how hallways are like
The most haunted.
they're because of the nature of a hallway. They're you travel down a hallway,
Right.
so it's
channels the energy.
A
Right?
conduit.
better than I am.
Well,
Yeah, it's
that's what it's used for. Same thing on like circuitry on like a board,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like a hallway is used to go from one place where energy is like essentially stored or kept or done with something to another place,
Right.
And that's essentially like what a hallway's for. So if you look at even some of these old cathedrals and like how they're laid out, like their symmetry is like godly as far as like how it's laid out, like literal. It's sacred geometry.
Right.
Like if you just cut the mother in half and lifted,
Look at it,
the
and it's-
top of it off, and yeah, you look at like how all the chambers are set up. Like they're all set up to create signal flow of acoustic energy. Right.
Right.
So, suffice it to say, I think that you can lay out your home, which is essentially a temple, into a certain manner to where if you have some sort of circuitry, quote unquote, that has been made with it, with whatever energy stardust is within human beings, right, then I think essentially you can create a doorway or a window to other dimensional planes.
Right.
What we would call ghosts.
No,
So
man,
you-
I don't smoke anymore. I just put the coffee table and the lamps like slightly askew to the left.
So, are you familiar with the Winchester Mansion? I don't know her
think
first
so.
name, Sarah Winchester or whoever. So, she was the daughter of the guy that invented, the Winchester, the rifle,
Okay.
and she felt horrible about her family history being, murder and death of all these people, because before the, the repeating rifle, it was like a little bit harder to kill people, but after that,
Right.
yeah, so thousands upon thousands of people. Well, she felt so bad about it that she thought that all these spirits were like out to get her family. So their entire mansion, and this is huge place, is built to confuse spirits so that they couldn't get to her.
I think I know what you're talking
she would
about.
have-
Like it'll be like a staircase that leads to nothing.
To nothing, yeah.
Yeah.
And doors that open up to like walls and
Dumbass
that's
ghost.
she designed her whole
Okay, we'll see.
You fucking dumb bastard.
Maybe she's onto something there.
and she'd have stairwells that would like start out normal, but by the time you got to the top it was like 2 feet tall, and
Okay, but like, what would that do to the energy of that structure? Like, because it would change the whole purpose of it.
I think you would have a lot more
Permanent
agitation because you would have you would have the anger and everything of like the dudes that are making it just like this fucking bitch. like what does she mean? She wants the staircase to shrink as it goes upstairs. Just
Yeah.
do it, man. She's giving us a lot of money.
Yeah,
Fuck this
very,
Winchester.
very interesting.
Fuck this Escher house. This is ridiculous.
Why are the stairs going upside down?
And how did the cat get up there?
How did they get up there?
Well, that
What are
just
those,
predicted reality.
there's drawings of like the staircases that like you know
The Escher.
Is that what that's called?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
MC Escher.
It's pretty wild. You know what? Like I'll have what do you call it? A motif that'll happen in like dreams sometimes, and some of them are like houses that don't make sense, right? And I think it's because like my brain is still trying to piece together a house as I'm like walking through it in my dreaming self or whatnot. But it'll be shit like that. It'll be like I'll go to walk outside and oh no, there's just another house like where there's supposed to be a front door. It's like, huh. Like, why is there a house within the house? And there'll be, like, staircases that just lead back to where you originally were. Like, you'll go, like, up the staircase and you're still at the same staircase.
At the same staircase? Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
I would hate to be, like in that house, in that Winchester house.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, dude.
I had a pretty cool dream about a house, like, 2 nights ago. And for some reason, I had like this little piece of string, like 3 feet long. And as long as I could swing it, almost like Thor's hammer, as long as I kept it swinging, I would like hover off the ground. So the whole dream, I'm like flying over the couch and, you know, and I'd spin it as fast as I could, you know, and I'd go higher. And like, it was crazy.
What in the hell? That's like a, okay, so.
It was very realistic too. So, it was the most remarkable thing about it.
So like there's some people say that dreams are like real, like you're actually going there, and it's not just a dream. It's another place out there in the everything that you're visiting, and so you can astral project out of a dream into the dream. It's kind of like lucid dreaming,
right?
Where you wake up in the dream. But you can also astral project in the dream, and then you can fly, right? So, I have a theory that when you have dreams of flying, you actually you astral projected, but you did not consciously. So, you're actually.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, there's
I've had dreams where I would like flap my arms and I would float up a little bit, and then I would like sink back down. And I could just, the more I flap my arms, the more I would. And then I realized I didn't have to flap my arms. And I could just, you know. So, this made me think that maybe I astral projected in the dream and didn't know it.
Possibly.
Yeah. There's a lot of crazy shit you can do in dreams.
It's like the gateway to the imagination. Like a lot of modern technology and things of that.
Sometimes
I thought that was Disney World.
Sometimes I'll think of a joke in the dream that's so funny that I will wake up, and it's like I could never have thought of that if I was awake. Like it's the funniest shit that I wake up laughing.
There's been a couple of times where I'm aware I'm dreaming, and I'll try to take control of it. Right, so like I'll have lucidity. I think that's the word. But one of the things I had heard to check for was go to a mirror. Right, certain things you do like look at a clock, flipping light switches or something. Trying to talk to people that are not really there talking. They're just sort of there. You know what I mean? Like certain things that normally would get a reaction out and your brain's not processing that. So I tried the mirror thing, and when I flipped on the light for the mirror, it was like one of my paintings of me in the mirror, but like looking back at me like all deformed and whatnot. Bad idea.
That's like
bad idea.
That's wild. That's like an acid trip dream. That reminds me, I've had recently I had to quit doing all drugs for reasons.
That'll happen.
But since I did that, like I started tripping in my dreams. Like it would come on just like an acid trip.
Mm-hmm.
I would have all the visuals, all the it was literally a trip in the dream. And does that with multiple different drugs that I used to do. Like I would get high in a dream and be stoned as fuck in the dream. And before I quit doing everything, like that never happened. So it's just really cool.
You got some lingering
I had
substances
like a full blown trip in a
It's
dream.
not quite done.
You must have had
yet.
much better time than I did.
Really?
I've had it before from like just I don't know if, like the old cliche was like you can like crack your back and like it'll release some of your spine. I don't know any truth to that, but I have had it before on just like normal days, like when I'm awake, not dreaming, but like I'll catch like something of like that sacred geometry, like the closed eye visuals that you'll have from psychedelia.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, why am I seeing that? And I'll have to like check my hand and be like, how I'll wave my hand to see how my trails are looking. I'm like, why am I seeing trails?
Yeah,
like
I heard
like it's like I'm microdosing it, but like I haven't taken anything, you know what I mean? But like it'll happen randomly. I've had dreams with it before too, where like whatever realm I guess that I've like tapped into dimensionally through psychedelia, like I'm back in that realm. So like like I'm
pop.
Well, so they say that whoever they is,
the people that say
they
things.
say that so you release DMT while you're dreaming, and that's what causes the dream.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they've proven that 100%.
Well, it's also what's released whenever you die,
Right.
and
Highly stressful points.
And
in your
occasionally-
life.
oh yeah, dude, like near death experiences and whatnot. Like you're
Well, there's two forms of DMT. There's NN-DMT, and then there's 5-MeO. And apparently your body can make both. And I've actually had I've had what I think is a 5-MeO experience, because I haven't done it like exogenously, but it's supposed to be like it's like a white light merging with God experience. So I had this experience. I was smoking some pot, nothing.
How dare you?
No big deal. I mean,
Devil's lettuce.
I have been getting high every day for like fucking 5 years at this point.
right.
So it wasn't like, it's not like I'm gonna blast off from smoking some pot. But I was also listening to this Tool song called Third Eye. You know that song?
Oh fuck yeah.
It's a fucking wild song. And so I'm sitting in my truck, just listening to the song, and I just like relax, and it's like the song. And so my garage door starts like going away from me, but my steering wheel's like coming towards me, so it's like, and I start like spinning like in both directions, like at once. And the next thing I know, it's like this giant hand just like, and I explode out of the top of my head into like this blinding blue light, and it's pure love. It's like God's love, just like, like permeating my entire being, and I like disappear, and I turn into the whole universe. So I'm like, now I am the whole universe and like one with God.
Right.
And then I snap back, just like that. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened? And so since that, like all kind of crazy shit started. I started seeing auras, like hearing crickets and frogs when I'm like in a house in the middle of the day. It's like, all kind of crazy shit. So it's like something like turned something on in there.
How much did you smoke and where'd you get it from?
I smoked a bowl
Oh wow!
It's like some
out of a socket. It wasn't even like a bowl.
kind of
I
a thing.
think
So-
it might have been lace, bud.
But yeah, well,
It's the old black
There's
flag. bug
somebody
spray on
snuck
it.
something extra in there.
that would have been nice.
That's badass though.
That is badass. But so that's a common. I wouldn't say it's common. That happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The Hindus call it like something.
Yeah.
I've heard of
You
that
heard
before.
something?
Well, I've had experiences doing like a 30-minute yoga session. You're stretching, like there's the Kundalini.
Oh,
However
yeah.
you say it. Kundalini meditation, where
dude,
you're just like aligning your corporeal self, your body, in such a way, and you're stretching it out, and you're doing all these movements that I'm sure it gets some sort of neural cocktail going on. And then, like, I've had experiences where I've started tripping from doing, like, 30, just holding, like, child's pose for, like, 30 minutes. And then there was one time where I was doing, like, the hot yoga, the hatha yoga with all the moms in the spandex. It was
nice.
And I came home and, like, instantly was, like, bombarded with a flood of, like, old memories from, like, just, like, my childhood and stuff. And, like,
old
instantly,
memories.
yeah.
I thought you said old memory.
Old memories from my childhood.
Memories in your face.
Memories of my mother's memories. I just, like, was so inspired. Like, I had to write about it and, like, wrote a song. Like, that's the first time I'd finished a song ever. And, like, in, like, 5 minutes, it just, like, poured out, like, something. I was,
so
like, connected
you were,
to
like,
something.
Well,
to
everything,
source
yeah.
or whatever, yeah.
Everything that you've ever seen or heard
It
or
was just
tasted
right
is
then.
still in your brain somewhere.
It's stored in your it's still stored in your
still
DNA.
there.
Yeah.
Well, there's a book called, like, The Body Keeps the Score or whatever, how your memories are, like, stored in your DNA in, like, every cell.
Right.
So it's like, if you can, like,
So,
you can pull something out of there.
you should be able to access all of that, like, consciously, if you did the right thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Yeah. Well, there's
Pray
there's something.
Wash behind your ears.
Prayer, like, not like, but that, like, praying.
It is like a form of praying.
Oh
I
yeah.
guess.
What's crazy about it is like that realm of consciousness or that dimension, whatever you tap into, it's omnipresent. Like, it's around us, like, all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like you said about that book about the body keeping score. Like even, like, things from, like, our ancestors is like we inherit that. Like,
Yeah,
we
that-
are our ancestors.
That blows my
With
mind.
a
Still hanging out on the Serengeti, buddy.
Yeah, with we have a different history, right?
Yeah.
Like a different history of experiences and a different world that we're exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, it's still all stored there. So I think that there's a way, if you're in tune with yourself and your ancestors are in tune enough with themselves, and granted, something like shamanism and psychedelia and a lot of these quote-unquote heretical religions offered an avenue to that, that things like the yogis spent, like, generations, like figuring out. You know, think about how many shamans died trying to experiment
Trying to figure out
with
what-
fucking alchemical ingredients they were
Yeah.
choosing.
Right, right.
There's a reason the cow's sacred, man.
So that reminds me. I just forgot about what they reminded me of.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Brian.
Hold, hang on. What the fuck? Okay, so yeah, I remember now. So that experience I was talking about that I had earlier, where I became everything. So I realized from that and a combination of, like, hundreds of mushroom trips. I don't. Maybe it was one or the other, but all of this stuff. So through the course of all that, I realized that, like, everybody is, like, the same thing in a different body, whatever that thing is, God or.
It's like cells in a giant organism or something like that.
No, like your awareness, your consciousness. It's all. So I think I get the picture of like a giant, like, octopus, and it's got, like, billions of tentacles, and on the tip of each tentacle is like a little puppet. But it's the same.
Right.
It's all the same super mind being.
Yeah, they talk about the net of consciousness.
Yeah.
where-
Akashic record or
The
whatever.
collective unconscious. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would think that something like that is it's tied into source, right? Like,
Yeah.
we all come
So we're
from
all-
the same light, but then I think it would still, like, the universe has a way of breaking things down because one cannot
Yeah.
manage everything,
Right.
right? So, like, one can manage two can manage four can manage, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's split down. So, like, stuff like the ancients talked about with
So it's like the hierarchies of angels.
oh yeah,
Um,
totally.
So we
And like the zodiac would be like those are the 12 disciples, right?
Yeah.
Like of Christ, our son, right? Like all this stuff like ties back into like all this old world religion stuff, right? So I would think that there is I may have talked about this before, but like in a Skyrim or like Elder Scrolls, you've got all these they're called Daedra, they're lesser gods, that they're not mortal, they are immortal, but they are godlike. But you can I would imagine you could transcend whatever Earth is as far as a matrix and appease one of these lesser gods to get out, but it may not be the god that you want to appease, you know what I mean? Because like there's gods of like destruction and malice and things that are
like, what would you be getting out into?
I think, well, the opposite of the light is the void, right? And what is the void? There's also oneness because there's nothing in the void. You know what I mean?
So the void would be like the primary state of every, like that's it's like the womb. The void is the womb of creation,
right?
And
no life can exist in the womb, but it grows from the womb. You know what I mean? Like it's all dichotomic, yin and yang, masculine and feminine. So like you would have something that can produce life but cannot create life, right? A womb cannot create life. It needs something else to produce life in the womb itself.
Yeah,
right. So
it needs the light.
Yeah, so that's why you would have in the yin and yang, you have a core of each perspective.
And the two become one. Yeah, it's that's like the one thing that everybody's dealing with, like the illusion of Maya, like the veil of Maya, like the illusion of separateness, when everything is the same thing, but we live in this sort of material, sensual, realist, experience that we usually have. But when you take 5 grams of dried psilocybin, the veil is swiftly drawn back, and you realize your oneness. But it's like, are there practices like, creativity, like something like music, drawing, or art that like pull you away from the illusion of the separateness?
Right.
And I just find that very fascinating.
I think it's a paradox, because I think you have to have both at the same time, as far as like the idea of oneness, but at the same time like the tentacle illusion that you gave, like there's individualism at the same time, right? So some of these gifts, like the creative arts, it's a way to show, no, I am not like you. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's
it's that thing is expressing all of its
characteristics,
whatever it wants to express through us. So everybody is different, even though we're all the same. So it's literally like
exactly.
But like
well said.
So each person is an expression of the infinite possibilities that it could express, and it's trying to express all of these possibilities, and that's why there's billions of us.
Yeah.
So it's just while it's doing that, it's learning about itself. Itself being
conscious of becoming conscious of itself.
Yeah.
A conscious magnet, right? So like God has to have polarity to it, just like the Earth has to have polarity, just like everything. So like the positive and negative, or the ions or whatnot, like they're
charges.
Yeah, so it's all atomic, right? Like everything is atomic. So it's kind of like ourselves, like we are mind, body, and spirit, right? I would argue that the spirit is probably our oneness, right? Our mind is how we align ourselves magnetically, right? So as far as an idea of like what the shamans talk about with when you see Mama Ayahuasca, is that you're getting a preview of Judgment Day for whenever your cosmic self goes out from this vehicle, and you have to sort of answer for like, now what did you do with your gifts, with time, the greatest gift that all of us have. And then the body, which of course is just temporal. Like all this is temporal. So I think that's one thing with like something like cloning would worry me, because I don't think you would get all of the human trinity. I think that you would get mind and soul, or excuse me, body and soul, but you wouldn't get the mind necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah, and this really freaks me out. Cloning.
Yeah,
Because-
I don't think it's
Because
good. Are you guys clones? My bad. I think cloning's awesome,
wait a
y'all.
second.
Thumbs up.
He's on to us. It's time to
Hurt
eliminate.
my clone feelings. Gonna recede into my cloneness.
I am programmed for sorrow.
So I've got this theory or idea that the spirit
Mm-hmm.
in us is actually like electricity.
Mm.
So the spirit is an electrical thing.
It's a 311
like
song.
consciousness is electricity,
Yeah.
or
Well, they'll
or it has an electric field.
Yeah,
or
they
it,
break it down to the ancients talked about magnetism, electricity, and dielectricity. The yin and yang, where it's like the blue and the red, right? Like so the chakra
in
like
the Ida,
difference.
in the Pingala.
I don't know those words.
Okay.
finger out of my
channels
finger.
in the channels in the body.
Oh, okay.
Energy channels that go from your nose to your
Yeah, to your perineum.
yeah, and then back.
Lower
Hey, now.
horn.
And you breathe in chi, or
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
it
the
nourishes
ether.
your energy body. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm
So that reminds me. You mentioned Kundalini earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Since
Did.
so I've had like 3 or 4 Kundalini experiences. That have like they're fucking insane. It's like a lightning bolt just up your ass.
Mm.
Yeah, but so it's like it's intense. So it like it I don't even know how it works. I guess it hits the bottom of your spine and it's like spirals up your spine. So you know the caduceus.
yes.
So it's the 2 snakes going up the pole.
Right.
Well, the pole is your spine.
Mm-hmm.
The snakes are this Kundalini energy going through these channels, and as it goes up, it opens up all your chakras, and then it's like a lightning bolt when it's striking. Lightning comes out of the ground
Sure does.
and it meets it. So it's kind of like that. It's like it meets. It hits the top of your skull. What do you call that?
Your well, in acupuncture, it's called Polaris, which is the North Star.
Well, anyway, so so it's fucking spiraling up your spine,
Yeah.
and it meets right there,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're like, you're connected to whatever.
Yeah, the Godhead.
Yeah.
The Godhead, I would argue, is the source of whatever the Kabbalic tree, I guess it is.
Tree of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like.
Okay, so yeah, the tree of life is symbolic of that.
Mhm. Yeah, totally.
Happening.
Yeah, within ourselves as well.
And they even there's sometimes you'll see a lightning bolt drawn onto the tree of life
Mhm.
going through the Sephiroth, and so that's also symbolic of the Kundalini. But I don't know how much Kabbalah you'll know, but so the base of the tree is basically
Earth.
Earth.
Physical plane.
Yeah.
Yeah, the physical plane.
Yeah.
And then there's all these other and so source is at the top of the tree, not at the top of the tree, but beyond the top of the tree.
Right.
The top of the tree is like kind of like God as we would think of it.
Was that 11? Isn't that like the number it's associated with? Because Earth would be, I don't know if it's 0 or 1, but then like all the way up at the top, the Godhead, I think that's 11.
Well, so there's beyond the tree, then there's 3 more.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what they're called. Ein Sof, and Ein Sof R. So what that means is like something like the void, the light, and the limitless. So it's something like that. So there's these 3 phases of potential. I don't know, something like that.
Shit, like I think that stuff's wild, man.
I need to brush up on my Kabbalah.
As do we all.
That is
I don't know. I think that like I was saying, I was doing a little 20-minute thing before you guys got here, but like the stuff, like the old world stuff, like like the aliens, the tree of life, and flat Earth geocentrism,
Aliens.
the false history, Bigfoot, like all that shit is so cool to me. And then 2020 has just been about like science, death, politics, fear. Like,
Bigfoot is real as fuck.
I would think so, man. Like,
No,
we don't know shit about Earth. Like,
I think
you think because
I think we've got DNA proof of it now.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now they have the
They had that a couple years ago.
Australopithecus. I think was like the one they think is extinct, but it was like the Harry and the Hendersons, like kind of like swamp ape.
Yeah.
Bigfoot.
Well, Bigfoot, I think, is something else.
It's like Young was talking about.
Because
If you
Bigfoot
can imagine
like,
it, like it does exist, or like it, on some, like you were saying earlier, like in a dream state, in that realm of consciousness, on some sphere somewhere, it does exist, even if it's just a guy in a suit on a television show, and fucking Joe Rogan's, hunting him down with some some ne'er-do-wells,
What?
Like it does. The idea of exists. So it's like,
I would say
does that give it property that it is a part of reality?
Right.
I would say that everything that can exist does exist. It's somehow, somewhere. So, which means leaves everything pretty open.
I would think so. Well, I mean, just
That's even in the Bible that says that. Nothing new under the sun, right? I think is the way it says it. But
Yeah.
so I think that idea is pretty
Yeah.
been around for a long time.
like they're even like, even though we can't even go to Antarctica, you can take a certified tour of it. But like they had like some like scientist whistleblower come out and talk about that something they found in the ice where like everybody got sick, like on the crew. It was like a big crew, and like they dug up something and like everybody got sick, and they couldn't even really talk about it as far as like what it was or what they got sick with. She was just like, I'm just letting you know that 4 people are alive and everybody else was dead.
No, man.
It's like, what the fuck?
So, wait,
In relation to Rona,
No,
or
what
is
is
this
this?
in the past?
No. This had nothing to do with like COVID or anything like that, which we all know the science on that is settled and there's no room for debate. But no, this was I want to say like in the past year or so, but I mean, like because everything has to now be about like COVID or the election or China, Russia, like any of these, like pick your news story. This is the news, like the whole year.
Don't you go out there trying to tap into source and better yourself in the lives of humans around you.
All these pathogens that have been frozen since prehistoric.
yeah, so it's basically a
times are
dinosaur
now.
virus.
We've never
Dinosaur viruses.
Yeah, we've never been exposed to it, and it's been frozen in ice, and now it's melting and
There was
coming out.
I had a paper.
That's great.
Years ago when I was still in school about the potential for life on other planets, and there's a few articles I found about them finding like archaea or like some kind of bacteria on Mars, and like that did it for me right then. I was like, well, I mean, that's life. Like, how could you ignore that? Like, there's obvious life
Right.
that has
On
been
Mars? Yeah.
discovered. And
think
it would be.
I
I
think
think we
they've
can all
also-
agree that it would be highly arrogant to think that there's not life
I think they've also. Well,
floating around.
I'm not sure if they've like 100%.
skeeting into each other.
Yeah, even McKenna talked about that things like what are they called whenever they fall to actually Earth? I don't think they call them comets then. Meteoroids or meteorites when they'll actually puncture through our atmosphere. Yeah, he argued that spores could exist in like space, vacuum or not. That like spores wouldn't need that; they could just be. And then when they get to an atmosphere where they can be and live,
Right.
then they would spread.
Isn't that fucking awesome? So there's also the theory. This is the
Stone Age
Terence
theory?
McKenna theory where it says the mushroom is an extraterrestrial,
Yeah.
and that would
The only way it can achieve its purpose is through a symbiotic relationship of the digestive tract of an organism.
But it's even deeper than that. So it's not only is the mushroom an extraterrestrial, it's actually like an extraterrestrial, like mental network that's so it's hiding in the mushroom trip,
Right.
and it is connected to all mushrooms across all galaxies.
It's a server.
Yeah.
Like you can connect into the cosmos that way.
But there's somebody else. So I don't know how many mushrooms y'all have done.
A formidable amount.
Okay, so
Twice what he's had.
so have you like noticed that there's somebody else in there when you're
The first time I had too many mushrooms, I kind of realigned with what I thought the word God meant to me. And I realized that the churches didn't know shit.
yeah.
And that there was more truth in something like shamanism and in the philosophical teachings of what the Christ mind is. So
It's like that direct experience.
Yeah.
Way more powerful.
yeah, and way more accountable. Even like bad times that I had had through mushrooms, I gained a hell of a lot of insight from it. You know what I mean? It may not have been pleasant, but the idea of like, well, I had a bad trip and I stopped. It's like, well, what happened? Did you just feel bad for like a couple of hours because of shit you were thinking about or shit you did? Doesn't sound like a bad trip. Sound like you needed to atone for your sins,
Yeah.
right? And that's like the big focus of, or used to be, of Christianity was, hey, everybody's fucked up. Good people do bad things. You have to atone for it. You have to make yourself accountable for it. And if you do that, you can rise above it. Like you can, if you make the world a better place for others, it's going to be better for you. Like bigger gets bigger, bigger gets more. So let everybody else get bigger as well, and you yourself will grow. You know, like I think that there is some fundamental truth to that as far as spiritually that I have found. I did not get that from the congregation, nor did I get that from Catholic school, nor did I get that from the rebellion against organized religion, where atheism goes, that's right, now we're the answer. It's like, you're just a religion as well, sir.
Right.
Scientism is not science. It's a religion. So
Yes.
It's dogma.
I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
I've had way more spiritual experiences doing mushrooms and things like that.
So the song "1,000 Miles a Night" is actually like a mushroom trip that Brian had.
It is about a mushroom trip.
it's good because I was listening. I was like, man, I would be fucking like having a good time tripping balls listening to like. There's good transitions in it.
Yeah, and if you'll notice in the song, you actually we try to represent it through this breakdown in the song, but it's kind of when the trip like kicks in, you know, and gets serious. But
So weren't what people were like balls of light or something?
yeah,
And they
so
would-
that was one of the I guess more intense times that I had. People would come up and talk to me, and I couldn't see people as people. They were just balls of light. And when they would talk, you know, they would blink in different, you know, it's like an orb of light. And they would talk, and it would be, and I would know exactly who it was, but
I know this.
You know, there was not
I know
it
this
was-
shade of gray.
yeah, it was the craziest thing I've ever experienced, man. Yeah, it was awesome. It was
I see
really
you as you
cool.
truly are.
And that's kind of how,
That's cool.
I came to some understandings that night about a lot of things.
Yeah, I've tried to, especially the older I've gotten, and you know, your social circles shrink a formidable amount. But I started paying attention to like, what kind of aura are these folks giving off, and even more so, what kind of aura are they giving off whenever I'm not tripping? You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, and then you can start to like, I don't know. I would find myself with people that their psychedelics kind of became their personality to a certain point. You know what I mean? Where it's
Right.
just like that's when they have good times. Is just like whenever they're they're tripping. And other than that, it's just life is miserable and awful. And like you don't sound like you're using psychedelics for how they're intended.
Right, yeah.
Like it
Exactly.
should be church. You know, I mean, that's what
Yeah.
the ancients used
So
to do.
it's definitely like
It's a highly sacred thing for sure.
Oh yeah.
it's like a psychic purgative. Is that a word?
Purgative. I think
So
you're
I've
right.
something
had
like
Purge,
pur-
like a purge or something?
yeah. So like
Like a laxative
so
for your soul?
it really like you go. It's
Soul
like
laxative.
it's like a you hit both of those at once. Awesome.
Double teaming.
So
Do it like each nostril.
so it really like
imagine that would
you
work.
really have to go in there and face all of the shit that you do not. One, you might not even be aware of it.
Yeah.
But you're pushing it unconsciously. You're avoiding it, and when you
Yeah.
so on top of all the crazy shit that's going on, you're also having to deal with this stuff that you haven't dealt with,
Yeah.
or that you're hiding from yourself, and it can get really fucking crazy.
Yeah. It totally
I've had,
can.
and it gets more for mushrooms at least. It gets more intense every time you do it. So at some point you leave behind your own shit, and it becomes the mushrooms insanity world, where like because the mushroom has a lot of shit to show you other than your own psychic bullshit,
Right.
and some of it's like you just cannot like accept it because it's just so crazy. So I don't know if y'all listen to much Terrence McKenna.
I like Terrence
So,
McKenna. I got one or
dabbled.
two of his books.
So I've dabbled as well.
I just really like
he's,
his voice, and
He kind of he brought it
he
to my
sounds
attention
like
that,
he's a mushroom.
that like so the mushroom is what the fuck? That's very that reminds me of something else. I'll get it over. So like when I eat mushrooms, I feel like my skin turns into mushroom, like the flesh of the mushroom. So
You
I feel like I'm
become-
a mushroom, and it's like I feel slimy and
Satisfying?
yeah, I don't know, it's satisfying.
I usually just curl up in a ball, like in the fetal position, like and wrap myself in a blanket.
It's like everything's
Just
like,
like-
aching, like this body. I just want to explode out of it.
It's like a grandmother in the 18th century that's just in a rocking chair, just like, I'm cold. Another blanket, please.
Close the window,
But anyways,
There's no window there. Like she's already lost her mind.
oh shit.
It's like a side quest where it's like, well, one person may be able to tell you where Mark is hiding. Who's that? Gertrude. The old bitch by the fire? That's her.
Oh my god. Oh lord.
Oh, let me save my game in case I fuck up this dialogue.
Have y'all experimented with McKenna's heroic dose? Like, that's the only thing I haven't done yet.
I have maybe
Part of me
twice.
is afraid of just losing my mind, and the other half's like, no, that's what you need.
I've done it,
Five
accidentally.
plus dry grams in darkness,
Yeah.
quiet darkness.
We used to get
It's not pleasant.
like extracted psilocybin in capsules,
Mm-hmm.
and I took 2 of them one time. One of them is like a full blown trip. I took 2 one time, and it was holy fucking shit. Like I can't even talk about it. It's it's one of those things. At one point, I was like flying up into space, like in front of this like 10-mile high like monolith of light. It's like a totem pole. It's got like different heads, and they're all like a different color, and they're made of light. And I'm just like, just fucking blasted off to the top of this thing. I remember that vividly. And other unspeakable things happened.
So there's probably like the self consultation thing for a little bit, but then like like you said, it's like, all right, now that you realize you're an asshole and you've got some things to work on, here's some pretty cool stuff to look at. Like I think that first part is what people.
Well, if you take
I'm having a bad
enough,
trip, like
Yeah.
if you take enough, the bad trip phase, it's like there's like thresholds. There's the your eyes get better and you can see things sharper threshold, and then there's the things start like moving around, and then there's the next one, which is like your shit, the bad trip phase where you can have a bad trip, and then there's more, but at some point there's just you're fucking gone,
Yeah.
And like everything
You
is
are
just
the
like,
trip. There's
That
nothing
night
else.
that I was seeing the balls of light, people that were balls of light, as the night went on, and that's where 1,000 Miles a Night kind of came from. I would have been dead probably if I was trying to wander around on my own, because I was not in this world any longer. Everything that could reflect light, every little blade of grass,
Oh, yeah.
every little, I mean, anything that had any type of reflective property would produce a 1,000-mile stream of night. And I was like in this tunnel
it's like
of light. And it was like the most beautiful thing. I was like crying, like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And so I don't know how I got home. I don't know who was around me by the end of it. I just remember being in this whole other place,
That's crazy how it can do different things.
And it was
like
just
that.
like, I mean, literally, I just remember this tunnel of
Wow.
just
Yeah.
saw every color you could possibly imagine,
And then some.
The
just stretching on
closest
forever.
thing I've had to that was I was out at Cody's place. I don't want to incriminate him. Chonga. DMT infused tobacco. So I was sitting out on his porch, and I think we've all listened to that Rogan's podcast about everything becomes just like complex geometry. It's like just colors and light, and that's like everything. So like I was just like looking, and then how like you'll take something and you get that like that sinking feeling.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah.
as soon as I took a puff, it was like, all right, you're gonna melt into the porch right now. You are the porch now. And then so I looked up, I like opened my eyes, and like you said, all the light just fractalized off of everything. It was just like crystals everywhere, and everything just turned into like this crazy crystal painting or something like that. And then there was a voice that was like, why don't you try closing your eyes and see if you like that, or something like that. and I laid down, and have you seen that image of the mushroom bee guy or whatever?
Yeah, the bee shaman.
The bee shaman, yeah.
Look at it. Keep talking.
So there was like the Native American colors, like yellow, red, black, and white, all in a pinwheel, kind of like circling around in a pinwheel, like it's just going in a circle.
Right.
And then so all of a sudden, like a female version of that image and a male version of that image were like right next to each other, just like dancing, like shamans, like something you would see on like Nat Geo or something. And then all of a sudden, the serpent came out, and like it was like coming at me like just like. But the coolest thing was it was a giant boa constrictor. The coolest thing was though, it was like non-threatening at all. It was like, hey man, it's okay. Like the way it looked, like there was no like sharp edges or anything. Like it was all bubbly. Like Khan or the snake from the Jungle Book, like
yeah.
Maxwell Carter, it looked just like that. And he was like, hey man, it's gonna be all right. And
was it a male snake or a female snake?
I didn't see any
It was probably
genitalia,
like a-
but
it was probably-
I wasn't looking under the. Hey, all right. Hey,
Yeah, you have to like
big
stick
one.
your finger in there to tell.
Oh shit! That's right.
Into the cloaca.
I didn't get to that
different
point.
ball game.
I was just like, holy shit! I actually had like that was like the
But that
only
serpent is
kind of
supposed to-
experiences I've ever
Yeah.
had like that.
The serpent is supposed to symbolize the goddess of like infinite, like the womb
Yeah.
goddess.
It wasn't
Some
what
reason,
they.
I don't know how they.
I tried to
the
go
serpent
back
with
and like capture it, hold on to it. Yeah, I saw
Look at
this
that
guy
shit.
dancing, a male version and a female version, and they were silhouetted against those
Wild.
that.
colored
So have you
pinwheel.
seen the cave art version of that?
Yeah.
the Kmart
So,
version?
The cave art.
Oh, okay.
So this is
It's on sale.
the
$4.99.
level side version. Somebody did a good job on this.
Yeah, that's
It's
awesome.
beautiful.
But you like an out of body experience today? It's a blue light special, $4.99.
Price check on Chonga. All forward. Price check on Chonga.
My manager be right with you.
Well, this is-
Oh, do you know where the Chonga is?
Home and garden to electronics. Home and garden.
They'll be right with you too, sir.
But I tried to go back into that. It was gone. like that. And I was like, oh, that's what they mean. This is like it's fleeting.
So you've
I
done
can still
mushrooms-
kind of see it.
You've done mushrooms too.
Yeah, I just never.
Have you done like a full blown?
I don't think I've ever crossed the threshold. It's always been like a heady thing. For
Well, I've
me.
never done DMT, but
DMT
so it's
I've
supposed to be.
done 3 or 4 times. Only one time after I came back from wherever I was, I sat up, I looked at my girlfriend, and I said, I feel weird. Like, that's all I could muster out. The geometry was completely different than LSD or psilocybin. The colors, like the kind of like neon battery acid that'll happen on psilocybin was way different on DMT. The geometry was a lot more. It wasn't a stained glass window that was just sort of morphing in and out of itself. It was like rigid, like, no, it is set. The universe is set in like these symbols.
You're there.
Yeah,
it's
I
place.
saw the crystalline city because I had my eyes open, like you said, the whole time. I'm looking at the painting of the narwhal mosquito guy with glasses, and then I just see something through the wall, just sort of step in and occupy, like underneath, like so its head is lined up with the head in the painting, and I can see it, and it's like right there. And I'm like, I wonder what that is. And I just sort of like,
I wonder what that is.
I sort of just like blink like long like that. And I'm like, holy shit, there's a lot going on in here. And I close my eyes and like I'm flying. I'm like, oh my gosh. And there's in front of me, there's like it's like a movie projector, right? That's going at like hummingbird wingspan speed. And it's just showing life. Everything with life. The color of the crystal is like bluish, kind of turquoise, but more blue. Like, and that's like it's as I'm flying above and around this city of like geometry and crystals, this movie is playing. I'm just like, what in the hell have I like stumbled into? When I've taken enough mushrooms to cross over, it's been a healthy amount. We're talking like 6 or 7 grams. Yeah. Like it's like a double dose, And like I found God that time, but like this was in like 30 seconds, like because I felt the effects, but I didn't. Like I said, I had my eyes open because I was expecting to see like stuff change drastically there first, and not knowing that like, oh no, like there's a whole world
Train's
going
leaving
on.
the station whether you're on it or not.
I had that same thing happen on mushrooms where everything, the world's crazy. Trees are like transforming into meta trees, but when you close your eyes, it's like so much more.
Yeah, I've had entities come through on mushroom trips on my closed eyes before, like open their eyes and look at me like namaste, I see you.
So it's there, they're there, like with you while you're tripping.
Yeah.
And you can, like, I can feel their presence.
That's what I would think aliens are, man. I would think they're more of these multi-dimensional things that we would call angels or demons, right? Like, for lack of a better term, but, like, that's same thing with, like, elves and, like all these mystical, like, creatures.
It's like they vibrate on a different visual plane. Like, you wouldn't recognize them as, like, a physical construct, like... Almost like a light construct or a wave, just a pure wavelength.
Not any more than a drawing on a piece of paper would recognize the pen.
Yeah.
Right? It will only recognize what the pen does to the paper. So, like, aliens, I would argue, they're post-death. They're post-biology, right? Like the third dimension is a slave to biology. Like, these temporal forms cannot escape the third dimension. Higher forms of dimension are not reliant on biology, though. So things like aliens or time travelers or whatever you want to call it, I think they're able to do like a pen is to paper, right? They're able to manipulate things in our third dimension while they cannot exist within our dimension. Kind of like we are with our avatars online. You can't go into Instagram and live your life, but
manipulate it.
You can
That's
define
kind
it.
of like the octopus with the billion tentacles thing in a different, kind of more in depth, because that thing it can't fully be here, so it has to use us in this enclosed matrix that it built through this.
Right.
So to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like fact checkers on Instagram. They can participate, but they can't really be a
I think
part
this
of it.
podcast will be fact checked.
I think all this talk about mushrooms has really made me want to eat some
Yeah.
mushrooms.
I don't know who, but someone's considering finding some at some point.
I've got some spores, some spore prints.
I don't know what that is.
One time,
No clue. Not whatsoever.
One time, I found this mushroom that was the size of my head. It was literally this fucking big.
Did you name it Garrett Jr.? You're like, I'm gonna take him.
I named it
You
dinner,
take him home with me, I'm gonna water
and then ate it.
it. Like, use that
No,
as
like
the
10 people
pizza
ate it.
dough.
It was that big, and we all tripped balls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think the biggest they're not golden teachers. I don't know. I mean, they grow out of cow shit. But biggest I've found has been probably about as big around as like this water bottle.
Well,
But-
that's the usual size, the cubensis.
Yeah.
But, and this was a cubensis, but it was so fucking like I had to grab it like that and just admire the.
Oh my gosh. I would have stored it for winter.
Freeze them? Will that
We did it
kill
that
them?
night.
I've never had a lot of luck with that. The freezing thing.
Oh yeah, you
Not
can
like
freeze
water.
it, but then they turn into mush.
Yeah, they're just mushy. I
It
like.
still works.
Well, if you're
Why
gonna
would
do
you
that,
save them? Just eat, go find
then
some
you
more.
then you make tea out of it.
yeah, I was gonna say make tea, make chocolate. You can make chocolate out
Yeah.
and freeze it because
Yeah, I actually like.
hold on to it.
I like tea.
It's mine.
I like tea because it hits quicker and it doesn't last quite as long.
Mm-hmm.
And some of my strongest trips was on tea, off of just like a few, maybe 4 or 5, medium-sized mushrooms.
right.
And one time I remember, so I always did mushrooms like in the woods, alone at night in my truck.
Sweet.
So
You're brave.
Listening
And so
to
this
Don't Know What You
particular
Got Till
night-
It's Gone by Cinderella on repeat.
no, I listened to When the Music's Over by the Doors for 4 hours straight, and it was just the perfect fucking. So I was looking at my hand, and I could see the front and the back of my hand at the same time, just like, I was it's like
From the trail.
no, like I wasn't moving my hand, but I could see the back of
Oh.
my hand,
Like a Alex Gray painting or something.
like yeah. And then I realized that I was sitting here, and then I could project my consciousness down the road,
Mm.
and like around the corners, and like I was
Some
just
Donnie
like,
Darko shit. Man.
and then I would like go back into my head like that,
That's awesome.
like it was like a snake coming out of my face.
You'll notice a lot more, at least from my experience of
Where you,
mushrooms in
where are
the
you shopping
woods,
for these?
is I think maybe because you're around so much more life, you're more tapped into it. Versus like whenever you're in the city, you're in a concrete force.
I would not dare do mushrooms in a city.
I mean, I
That's my
have.
problem.
We have that.
We had holy shit. That was a small amount, and that was when I first started. So mushrooms, like the first couple times you do them, they're really tame.
I think it's until you have like a more than you should. When you're at the point where you're like, man, I don't know, I'm not really feeling like I should. I'll just eat another helping
Well, I
of
don't know,
it.
because I could eat one mushroom right now, and like have an insane.
Oh, I'll feel it. Yeah, like a microdose on a psilocybin. Like I'll still feel like I'm connected.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean?
But at first that wouldn't happen.
No. You have to be able to know when you've had maybe more than you thought you should have had. And then from that point, you're like, okay, now I can tell like how
So
one mushroom
it
will
opens
hit
up
me.
a door that doesn't fully shut.
No, because it opens up a door that you didn't know existed,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So now that you know that door is there,
Yeah.
that you're a lot more apt to be able to manage your connectivity with the cosmos at a
this is
lot
really
better
cool.
rate.
So have you seen our logo?
Yes.
It's like a triple spiral with a bunch of other smaller spirals.
Mhm.
So, so all of these smaller spirals that are kind of around that logo I can look into like a dark shadowy corner of the room, and they start coming out. And so this first happened while I was on mushrooms, and I smoked a little bit of pot.
Oh,
And
jeez.
then as soon as I hit the weed, it just like sort of
I
coming out.
apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't realize we were having druggers on today's show.
I got a question. So you openly talk about mushrooms, but then when you mention pot, you're like, so I smoked a little pot. Why do you do that?
well because they're
It's higher on the
utilizing it.
Schedule 1 ranking.
So I don't care about it anymore.
I know, I'm just messing with you, man.
But anyways, so now I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is look,
You are either
and
broken
it
or
starts
fixed.
coming out. It's like it's like you were saying you would see like you wouldn't be tripping, but you would see you would have like a flashback.
Yeah.
So it's like the visuals that you would see,
Mm-hmm.
but it's always these little spirals, green and purple spirals.
Yeah.
And it's like a flower that. So there's like a frame of it. There's like an outer edge
Like
that's
a
not
border
as
to it.
intricate that expands, and then inside is like this living, like growing, blossoming spiral thing. And yeah, so it's really cool.
Well, I think that's
And so
fascinating. Just because like I would argue that stuff is always there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like through psychedelia, through shamanic
So you're-
medicines and traditions, you're able to sort of acknowledge a part of the universe that science doesn't even like to recognize.
well, it
You know
also
what I
helps
mean?
to have like your third eye like operable.
Mm.
So your third eye, your pineal gland, is literally an eye. The inside of it has rods and cones,
Mhm.
and it's filled with this these little liquid. It's filled with this liquid that has little crystals in it, and crystals, so you can store information. They can pick up like signals, like a.
Like a receiver. or
They're
something.
receivers. Crystals are receivers. Yeah. So. So I think what's happening is I'm picking something up in there, and I'm seeing it with the eye part of the
Right.
pineal gland.
Well, even like your actual eyeballs, like they're part of your brain. You know, like
Oh yeah,
like they're the external part of your brain.
that's wild.
Yeah.
I remember the day that I realized that everything that I'm seeing out there is actually like right here.
Mm.
So
All
So you're seeing like way over there, but that thing way over there is right here.
Well, it's kind of like what was it?
The day that I've-
Camera obscura, like old school, where they found a way to use light to project it, where it would project everything upside down. So like the way your eyes even take in information is actually inverted
Yeah.
from what is really there, and then it converts it back so that way you're not seeing everything upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
read
but it's in
a,
the process, so it's flipped.
Yeah.
I read
don't
a
think that
scientific
necessarily
study
means-
where these scientists invented goggles that would let them see things the way that they really were, and they wore the goggles for X amount of time, and when they took them off, everything was still upside down. It took them a while for their brain to readjust. You
Yeah.
know?
Oh yeah.
was-
So
it was
it's
very
like
interesting.
when you're driving down the road and you stop and everything's like, coming back at you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's still
So your
the
brain-
illusion of movement.
your brain has adjusted to movement, and it's adapted to that. And then when you stop, it's got to readjust to being stopped. So it's crazy how like plastic the brain is, like that. Like
Yeah.
it's just real time, like adjusting.
It's neuroplasticity. It's
Yeah.
like you can keep changing it. It's like it's just like everything else. Like it keeps shifting. Like every little bits of information. That's why you can literally change your mind. Like your thoughts are.
You're changing your brain.
Yeah, you're literally. Your thoughts become things. They become neurons and axioms and like the schemas in your mind. Your memories become actual physical construct, neurological constructs. Because when I learned that, I fucking blew my mind. I was like, "Whoa, Buddha was right, man. Thoughts are things, dude. That's
Yeah.
heavy, man."
Well, you have to be able to create your own reality. You know, like your home is like one of the few things that like you have some control over, even if it's just like one room in your home. Like, you know what I mean? But you got to make that like your bastion of like happiness and solitude and like everything that will let you prosper as a human being in the outside world. You know, so
coming home to something miserable. You know,
God, that's
Jesus.
That's hell, dude.
What's the point of coming home?
Yeah.
So your well, your brain mind. I'm kind of making that like space time. I'm gonna call it the brain mind.
Okay.
Just because they're separate, but they're inseparable.
Right.
So what happens with your mind is going to reflect in your brain, just like it would affect your outside, and vice versa. Like you were saying, if you keep your living space, like, you know, keep it happy, keep the vibe nice, it's going to affect every other part of your life.
Yeah.
Like fractally. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, absolutely. Even with I talked about before about like daily prayer or like a mantra. You know what I mean? Like I try to say my prayers aloud every day, so it puts my wishes into the universe.
And you should like bless your food before you eat it. Like say your blessing, because that if you know it affects your food on a quantum level. So have you seen what's the guy that he would like play music for water and then freeze it? You know?
Yeah.
You know about that?
No.
He'll
out.
he'll take photographs of like how it'll crystallize or whatnot.
Yeah, the snowflakes of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some guy did that with words as well.
Yeah, he would write the word on the jar that the water was in.
Yeah.
And that was all it would take.
Yeah, the word like love would produce this really pretty symmetry and like this like gorgeous snowflake type shape, and then the word hate it looked like germs in a microscope.
Wow, that's amazing. I have never seen.
So you fool. That's what you fool.
It reminds me of that experiment on
Thank You
Mythbusters
looks like,
where like they had plants
That's
in different
weird.
grow rooms and
Isn't that
like
crazy?
they would play like
I've
heavy.
never
They
seen
would play
that.
like Slayer in one room to see if like sounds affect the growth patterns.
Yeah.
And then like one guy would come in and be like, "I fucking hate you, plant," and like it would be stunted. And then like the chick would go into hers and like be like, "I love you," and it was like huge and flourishing.
Yeah.
It was just like, wow, that's
Isn't that fucking
crazy.
wild?
Holy shit.
So
Word magic.
Water is literally a liquid crystal.
Whoa, man.
And so
Smoke water, man.
And so it's, yeah.
Smoking
And so it
some
stores-
water.
And like all crystals, it
Crystal in
stores
my
information,
eyes.
Right.
and that's why I think that's why this works.
I had come across something. I think it was something David Icke, the conspiracy guy, talked about. But that there's a certain group of scientists that are trying to argue that the rings of Saturn, because they've now discovered sound coming from Saturn, that they're not ice because it's so far out in space, but they're actually just crystals. And from our sight, what we're seeing, the rings of Saturn are crystals and sound waves. Because
So
we're
it's a
seeing a
giant,
planet
like-
from that far away, this gas giant, producing sound. We're going to be able to see the waves effect in these rings or crystals
Right.
that are coming out. The
And
sound
so
coming
it's-
from Saturn is fucking nightmarish.
So his theory is that Saturn is
Just screams
Saturn is
24/7.
his theory is that Saturn is like transmitting this false matrix
yeah.
overlaying our real world, and so that's why we live in like backwards world.
Yeah.
Because everything is tuned to that evil
Yeah.
frequency right now.
Yeah,
Because of
The
Saturn.
drown note.
the churches
all around Saturn.
the churches destroy God. The education system destroys knowledge. The justice system destroys justice. Politics destroys law.
That's
like,
it.
and that the moon he argues that the moon is acting as an amplifier that is able to receive these signals from Saturn and then broadcast them down to Earth.
Yeah, and so according to him, the moon is like it's actually a metal sphere. It's not rock. It's got rock on the top of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that like the craters aren't deep on the moon is because when they hit, it blows all the dust to the side, but it's still like this metal. So you know when a meteor hits, there's a fucking crater,
Right.
a deep ass fucking crater. There's no deep craters like that on the moon. They're all flat.
They talked about I think this may have been one of the cosmonaut scientists, but they talked about they had fired some probes into the moon, and it rung hollow like a bell. It sounded like that it had struts in it.
That was actually I think it was Neil Armstrong that made a comment very similar to that. I guess when they had blasted off, you know, part of the ship goes back down and just crashes on the surface of the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And they've actually were able to record that sound, and it was ringing, and it rang for like so many hours, like continuously.
That's actually where I got the line in Mystery Song, "The Moon, a Steel Machine."
Nice.
Something like that.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Lots of
So
things.
that's where I got that from.
Yeah, something like that. Even like as far as like people say, like, well, they think the moon came from here, like the double whack theory. That like some Nibiru or some planet hit Earth, and a chunk of it flew off, and then it came back for another whack. That's why it's the double whack theory, and then it
Gotta have
spun
that
off.
second whack.
Yeah, then it spun off after the second whack to be the moon where it's at. That doesn't make a lot of sense. What does make a lot more sense is that it's some sort of like cosmic egg spaceship that glows, it's always been.
It's parked in orbit because it doesn't rotate. It rolls, and the same side of the moon is always facing us.
Yeah,
that's why there's the dark side, and even though the dark side's not really dark because it's still
because you can see it during the day. It's like, well, why can't I see the dark side of the moon during the day? Why is it blue like the sky? I was like, well, that's just the trick that light plays on. He's like, is it though? Is it though? That sounds like some bullshit, and I'm talking some bullshit, so I think I'd know bullshit if I like came across it. But like that, it makes a lot more sense to me if somebody's just like, we don't know what the moon is, but it seems to be affecting our planet, and other planets have moons as well, and maybe they're not all for the same reason. You know what I mean?
So it's at the perfect distance.
Perfect distance,
for
perfect
life
size.
to exist. The perfect size. It's the perfect size to cause an eclipse for some reason. I don't know what the agenda, if there's an agenda to it, what that could be.
No, that's all by accident.
Because
there's no divine design.
Because no other moon anywhere ever causes a perfect eclipse like that.
No, to the fact they have it down on a cycle. I think it's called the Saros cycle, Saros, where a certain eclipse will happen again like every 18 years, 11 months, and 8 minutes, or something like that. And they don't use like the Copernican model or NASA's model. They use these old school like models where they were
Mayan calendar.
Yeah, there's like, no, the Earth's the center. Everything sort of spins around like a gyroscope around us, and that's how they kept track of everything. Yeah. That's how they've been able to keep track of eclipse cycles as
That's
well.
That's kind of what we were talking about at the Asheville Street that one night. The what was the
Michelson-Morley experiment?
Michelson-Morley experiment.
Yeah.
Would you explain that to them? Because that blows my mind.
So I don't know when it was. I think it was either late 19th or early 20th century, but it was it's essentially, okay, table surf is a good example. So let's imagine that each four of us were something in a room, right? Okay, we're a receiver and an emitter for light. So luckily we have two examples right here. So in the middle of the table where the mic's at, we'll pretend that's a lens. So the idea was that they're going to shoot a light beam into this lens that's going to split. Part of it's going to continue straight, and the other one is going to make a hard right turn. Now, at the end of each of these paths is a mirror. So whenever the light hits, they're going to bounce the mirror, come back. The one that went forward is now going to make a 90-degree path, and the one that took a 90 degree path previously is now going to go forward, and they're going to bounce back over here. Now, the idea was that however far the light beams were out of phase with each other would show you how far the Earth had moved. Now, the idea behind that was that if Earth is moving through space, it's producing an ether wind that, you know, because it has to have a medium of something to like move through for light to pass through it. Mm-hmm. So the results of the experiment turned up of Earth with a velocity of 0, or a fixed Earth. So this was a big disappointment because it's supposed to be a huge experiment to prove that the Earth was moving, and they couldn't get to work. So Einstein stepped in using a thing he called the Lorentz Transform, where he said that we actually have length contraction, and time and mass are all altered, but light can be used as a constant, right? So if we say that there is no ether at all, he gets rid of the entire chi, the fifth element, and he says that that would explain why there was the light beams were not out of phase, why they were completely in phase, is because there is no ether and the Earth is moving. It didn't prove the experiment at all. It was a way for him to say why it was a 0 result, and because of that,
and that's not science.
Yeah, and that's not science. It's dogma. Like that's scientism. But because of that, Einstein wins these prizes, and he is exalted to celebrity status, and even nowadays, like we were all taught as kids, that like, oh yeah, regular Einstein, you know,
trust
somebody,
the science.
Yeah, like. And
believe in the light.
Yeah, he did spin control. He essentially acted as a public relations officer for this experiment, and because they had invested so much into it,
everything is marketing.
Yeah, so the entire basis of 20th century scientific education and physics, maybe for the better, you know, but was altered to correspond with what Einstein concluded. So while he was a genius with everything, in this one experiment, it seems to me that he was on the payroll, so to speak.
Groceries were good and taken care of.
Yeah. But, I mean, with that experiment, that's something like why atheism really latched on to heliocentrism, is because you didn't have to have like chi or ether or this heavenly quality. Oh, it doesn't exist. So of course, then that proves that God doesn't exist, and all this cosmic happenstance is true. And Big Bang cosmology was like, oh yeah, exactly. All these things came from the Vatican, mind you. Like all these ideas of like Big Bang cosmology, they were funded with Bank of Rome money. Like they were just like, yeah, sure. School that shit, man. Teach all the kids about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the Vatican, I don't know where I got this from, so I don't have a source. But so I think one of the popes said that they have like their own religion behind the scenes when they go into the Vatican. And have you seen like the Pope's throne in the Vatican?
Oh yeah, in front of that
like
sculpture,
monstrous fucking Hydra thing.
Yeah, it's called the Resurrection. It's supposed to be of Jesus.
It's the most horrifying thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it looks like H.R. Geiger came in and designed the fucking statue.
It looks like the sound that Saturn makes.
Yeah.
It's fucking creepy.
Well, there's that idea. I don't remember where I got this from. It's probably the Bible, where it's like, you know, in the physical plane, and God came down, or the devil came down, like, wouldn't the devil disguise himself as the light, like the God, like the righteous, the right path, and then make it seem like, you know, the other guy was the shyster?
So in the Bible, like God kills like millions of people, but Satan only kills like one because God told him to. Yeah,
there's a certain sect of I think I talked about it here before, of Luciferianism that argues that Lucifer is actually not Lucifer, that Satan, the adversary, was this demon claiming to be Yahweh, and amended the Ten Commandments, removed certain ones, and then placed in ones of, you don't have any other gods other than me, you keep the Sabbath holy. Yeah.
So
it's the what?
The demiurge.
Yeah, the usurper of the gods.
Yeah, and this is also where Saturn comes into play. Because there's the real world, and then there's the fake world, the demiurge made for us to be trapped in.
Yeah, the archons, as David Icke calls them, that they can kind of the same way with the paper analogy earlier.
This is Gnosticism.
Yeah, if you give them a blank piece of paper, they're gonna be like, well, what the fuck can I do with that? However, if you put something on the paper and hand it to them, they can be like, oh, and then warp whatever's on the paper. So they can, they call them jinn. They're demons, but they call them jinn, I think, in Islam, where they can...
Are they demons, or are they just like a different kind of entity? They don't well, when you say demons, people think evil.
Yeah, they think
but they don't
horns
have
on top
to be
of the head.
necessarily.
Yeah. But yeah, they're something greater than our own cosmic selves can handle. But yeah, they can manipulate reality, and
harder to handle. That reminds me of the Bhagavad Gita. So when Arjuna is talking to the Godhead or whatever, I forgot the name, and it's like it only shows them bits and pieces of reality, because if it showed it the whole thing, like it would just like obliterate into a nothingness or something like that. It's just 'cause it's too much to handle.
Yeah,
That's why your brain doesn't give you all the information that it's picking
at
up
a time,
on, because it's too much.
Yeah.
So when you do mushrooms, you take in all of it.
Yep.
Yeah, your doors of perception are widened. Like literally, your bandwidth for reality becomes wider whenever you're on psychedelics.
I wouldn't be a bit fucking surprised if if the world turned out to be like ruled by extraterrestrial reptilian
That's one thing.
beings. I would not be shocked a single bit.
I think the world is a stage to a certain degree. And I think that there are.
That's like a bigger picture.
Life is like performance art in a sense.
That's like a higher perception of the world. So there's like different levels that you can of worldview.
Mm-hmm.
The higher you get, the more the closer you get to love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
The one.
Yeah.
And actual reality. The further you get away from.
I like this idea of being like a Sims simulator game for reptilian aliens. I think that's kind of cool.
Well, are they? And they don't necessarily have to be extraterrestrials. They could have originated here.
Yeah, let's make that guy fuck that
Or they
pig over
could-
there.
Or they could be extra-dimensional aliens.
True.
Where they come from somewhere. Like we were talking about earlier, the elves and angels. They're on a different... This is also a David Icke thing, I think, where he's talking about they're on a different wavelength, so you can't see them.
Yeah. Yeah, because all we have access to is visible light. You know what I mean?
Have you ever read H.P. Lovecraft?
I haven't read much fiction.
Oh my God, you got to read everything H.P. Lovecraft has read. Because he talks about all of this shit before it was even thought of, but in a different way. It's like, so in one of his books called the Call of Cthulhu, he talks about sensitive artist types would have dreams of these monstrous happenings, and they were sensitive to this, and that's why only they would, and himself being a sensitive artist type, just channeling all of this crazy shit into his books. He's got the invisible aliens that are just outside of your visible light.
Mm-hmm.
He's got ancient reptilians buried under in ancient cities underground.
Isn't that where Cthulhu comes from? From a sea empire or something like that?
Well, he's actually like an extraterrestrial god from another planet. So he's something different. There's all kind of different shit going on here. He's also got in one of his stories, the scientist builds this machine, and when it's on, you can see it basically turns on your third eye, and you can see all the shit that's going on that you can't see right now, just in the room with us. Because there's other shit going on right here.
Oh yeah.
You just can't see it.
No doubt. There's entity. This makes me sound like a lunatic, but that's okay. No doubt. There's like entities around this table other than just the four of us. You know.
And they didn't necessarily see us either.
Right.
They could.
I think they do.
But then there could be, but even beyond that, there could be like a parallel Earth where we're also sitting here, but we're talking about something different. But we're right here. And there could be an infinite number of those. So like I said earlier, everything that can exist does exist.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like a multiverse thing.
I had a moment on LSD a few years ago. I took a 10 strip, and it's a lot.
Oops. Yes.
Yeah. So I had done it before. That's a milligram, I guess, a 10 strip.
God damn.
But I saw this bird, and this bird was just
And
another special.
100 micrograms is a full blown trip.
Yeah.
Right? So imagine that times 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
You learn a lot.
Really quick.
But I saw this bird, and like not anything special. It was like a blue jay or something like that. But like the sound came out of me that never come out. I was like, oh. And after it like floated away, my girl at the time, she starts like cracking up. She's like that sound, and then like I start like cracking up, but I start laughing in a laugh that's not mine, like a laugh of like my ancestors. Is weird, like like weird like channeled like laugh, and in my brain I see myself, and there I am in another life, another time, another history, and with people around me, and I'm having the same laugh for a different circumstance, but it was like they laughed together at the same time.
That's fucking
and like
awesome.
all
The
synced
illusion of
up.
time. Like it's actually one thing. Like it's not linear. Like it's
you
cyclical, and
you cut through
it's happening everywhere all
through
the time.
the whatever.
Well, like six dimensions would be like our dimension, right? Except you're able to sort of view all possible lifetimes.
Yeah.
You know, that all that could have been in the same realm that you are in the third dimension, which
So
is
right now we're
wild
actually
to even think
this is
about.
the fourth dimension because we're also in a time dimension. We don't take account in
Right, but
time into our
right, because we can only experience the fourth dimension on a third dimensional level. So we experience time linearly, as like day after day after day. But that's not how time is. Time is just a point. Like it's a point in space, right? Like that's your life is just like one atom somewhere, and all these other atoms that are also your life are connected,
they're
tethered somehow, and we're all tethered with that to this other greater network of like cosmic entities. So it's no wonder why whoever designed us was like, put a filter on the brain. We don't want them figuring out all this shit.
Put some fluoride in their water.
When I designed this, actually.
That kind of brings me to a thought.
When you designed me.
You know how earlier we were talking about kind of a learned experience, like, you know, what... how you would pass it on to different generations.
Right.
Like, so the same can happen, and this is scientifically proven, you know, like where, like an animal learns to adapt to a certain environment, and its children that are born, there's no way that it can teach, you know, but they still learn that same adaptation. So the adaptation itself, the mental, like learning not to go to this place,
It's called
that's passed on, you know?
Right.
It's not like a physical adaptation, like a mental, like an educational understanding.
It's called the morphogenetic field.
Right.
So you can. So they proved this with rats. They would teach rats. Watch this.
Well, hang on. Let me finish my thought, and then you go with that.
Okay.
So I wonder if some of that, like your laugh that you picked up on, and you instantly saw like your ancestor or another world, or you know what I mean? Like, what if that is just genetically that experience, that laughter is passed down from generations of your ancestry.
Right.
You know,
Like those beautiful brown eyes.
yeah. So it's not even. So maybe it's not stuff that that you learn, so to speak. It's also like behaviors. It's
It's
Well, it's in
genetic
your
programming.
DNA.
It's
It's
in
in your
code.
DNA.
yeah, it's literally in your DNA. It's
So they say
everything.
we
Things-
use like
the way you
3%
say
of
things.
our DNA or something like that. Like
yeah,
the rest
right,
of it's
something like that.
the rest of it's we're not accessing.
Yeah, they
We-
call
we
it
use
junk DNA.
junk DNA,
DNA.
yeah. And so that little bit of DNA is what we're made of, like our physical bodies.
Mm.
But we got all this other stuff, and like what is stored in that shit.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so the morphogenetic field. So they took these rats. It was like in New Zealand or something, and they put them through this, these, whatever they did. I can't remember exactly what they did.
Like a maze or something, I think.
Something like that. But then they noticed that rats in London were picking up on the same thing that the rats in New Zealand had
That's right.
faster.
Mm.
And so rats all over the world are learning this just because these rats learned it.
Their collective unconscious.
They're collective. Yes, that's exactly
shit.
right. So like all species are connected to this, to their collective unconscious together, like us.
Mm.
We are
Right.
too. And at some level, all the species have their like another overarching collective, and at some point it gets to like the earth itself
Mm-hmm.
is alive and is aware, and we are connected to that too, and it keeps going like that.
Yeah.
So like
I think there's something with beasts and fauna as far as how they're tapped into a collective mind, where I think they're tapped more into the Godhead than we are,
Yeah.
because I think we're the caretakers of this place, and we're also determining the cosmic health of whatever this yin and yang is, the chakra system. Earth is the center chakra. It's the heart chakra. It's the top floor of hell, the bottom floor of heaven. It will always be in
Nice,
chaos.
yeah.
I forgot where I was going with that.
That makes me think
That's
of
great.
the inanimate objects
Yeah, right
have
now.
consciousness. Like, does every atom have some sort of consciousness? You get back to like that electricity.
Oh yeah, we were
It's like
talking about one time.
everything that has some sort of charge in it is like consciousness or something like
Well,
that.
was it you? We were talking. So the solar system is built like an atom.
Yeah,
Maybe so. I don't think.
was alchemy.
I think
and
atoms aren't
hermeticism.
necessarily like electrons going around neutrons,
Right.
but that's the model, and it's interesting that model is the same as a solar system model.
Right.
And so, what if the solar system is just an atom that we're and we're and
Of an
we're
atom
like
of another atom.
we're statically
of
like
another atom.
stuck to this electron. And that's what gravity is. It's static electricity pulling us little dust motes to this,
Mm-hmm. There's a
And so galaxies are like cells, and these cells make up like galaxy clusters,
right.
or maybe the galaxy clusters are the cells. But there's like this great cosmic entity that we are a part of. It's biology.
Yeah, we're inside
Yeah.
of like this being. Yeah.
I think Dr. Seuss explored that in Horton Hears a Who.
Yes, that's exactly right.
He might have been on to something.
Precisely.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite stories.
There's this conspiracy page I follow on YouTube called Space Busters. They're
Space
Space
Kind of like
Busters.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, they're fun, but they did this one on it was on like comets, cataclysms, and catastrophes. Some other C word I think for the alliteration, but they were tying in things like electromagnetism and why even though folks like Tesla were just like, hey, this shit is real. Like, you can just have a wireless network, and everyone's just like heretic, burn him. And now it's like conveniently, it's like, oh, hey, you want to pay to get online? We got a wireless network.
You have to pay.
Would you like to give us some of your resources and
What
hard-earned
is
energy?
that, like 0 point energy, where at every point in the universe is all of the energy in the universe that you could tap into?
I think that's why the argument was made that like we don't need to like have this so publicly available.
Right.
You know.
That's why he died in prison.
Wait, I don't think he was in prison, but he was definitely penniless.
Did he not die in prison?
Yeah, he was in a
Tesla?
hotel room.
Yeah, he
Oh.
was.
He lived in this
Well,
hotel.
somebody died in. Somebody like that died in prison. It might have been like
Carl Sagan. No,
No, he wasn't in prison.
who was?
Um,
who am I
He was
thinking
probably
about?
on Jeff Epstein's island partying it up.
this is the guy.
That's right. Oh my god.
What do you mean they got Jeff? What the fuck are we gonna do?
Was it Wilhelm Reich? The guy that discovered orgone?
I don't know. I know who is it? Galileo. I think they put in the fucking tower. They're just like because he was like, the sun's the center. No, the earth's the center. The sun's the center. They were just like, lock him away. He can't make up his mind. Lock him away.
Yeah.
He'll confuse the children.
You go to your room until you come up with
Sort yourself out, young
With your telescope. I'm sure they gave him a telescope up there.
He did recant towards the end of his life. Galileo, he said that, of course, it may have been because they had him under house arrest, but
We're beating him daily.
yeah, he was like, okay, the Earth's the center, but I still don't think they let him out. You know,
Yeah, they're
Right.
just placating, like, yeah, that's cool. And it's like, he doesn't realize that he's still locked up. He's just going to stay in there.
sure
Speaking of Galileo, so tomorrow is the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn.
Yeah, so
It's
this is
the first time in like 600 years.
800 year cycle.
800 years?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
The
So the last time was in the time that Galileo was alive. It was like 14 years after he built the first telescope that this happened.
it would have been.
And now it's happening again.
So what's the proper thing to do? We need to build a fire and get naked, dance around it.
I think that's also going on.
What's
at
the
Jeff
protocol?
Epstein's island.
What's the protocol for something like
I'm sure there's a
that?
lot going on that's more unspeakable than that.
Yeah, no doubt. But what would it be? 1200 something. So like 1220. So imagine that, like, for 800 years, like, this hasn't happened. All this other shit has been happening this year. Like, and still, like, no, like, hardly anybody's talking about, like, the UFO shit, like, that they was released.
Oh
You
yeah.
know?
Quick, give them something to panic about.
Yeah.
You don't need them researching on their own.
Yeah.
They're gonna wait on the staged invasion for like when the
Disclosure.
virus doesn't work.
Right.
I think that is something at the end that's going to be like either an alien invasion or maybe
second
the
coming.
aliens are coming here to save us one and all, but
Oh, yeah.
only some. Only some of you guys are going to make it.
Oh,
Sounds
sorry.
familiar.
Oh, so have you ever seen a UFO like outside of
Yes.
hyperspace?
I haven't seen aliens outside of psychedelia, but yeah, I talked about this a couple episodes ago. Halloween morning, right off this front porch at breakfast.
It's a good day to see a UFO.
Dude, like I had a really intense and transcendent night before the night I went out and watched you guys play, and I was hanging out with my friend Mike Price. I ran to my friend Danielle Sutton, and like both of those people, shout out to them, like ride or die. Those are good people. And I hadn't seen my friend Danielle in like over a year, and like just this year, like craziness. Like she's one of my favorite like people that I've had, and like the pleasure of knowing, especially in this town. And so like I just like fucking unloaded on her and everything, and we had ran into somebody else who would be unnamed, but had dosed me earlier in the evening. I wasn't I wasn't drinking or anything. I was like, whatever, yeah, sure. Like, so.
As you do.
Say what?
As you do.
Yeah. But this was the next, like, we'd all come back here like later that night. I guess they had left around like probably like 4 or something, and I'm still up, you know. And I'm like, man, like I want some fucking like Chick-fil-A breakfast, dude. Like just like hot, steamy. I'm gonna eat it. I'm gonna like come back, like just like be able to crash and take a nap. Like that'll be awesome. And I open up, I go out, and I see the moon right there at the top of the tree line, perfectly where I'd see it. And I open the front door, I'm about to open up the wind door, and my mind kicks in that it's 6 o'clock in the morning. The moon's not in the eastern sky. The moon's all the way back here in the western sky. And I look back up, and it's this thing. It's as bright as the moon. It looks like a star, but it's like, it's hard to see because it's so bright and gleaming, but it's like triangular. And in each corner of the triangle are little green like stars. In the middle is this white star. It looks like the all-seeing eye symbol, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, or the Triforce in a Legend of Zelda, you know, with the triangles within triangles. That's how it looks. And it's moving like this, like erratic movement, like it's trying to puncture through like cellophane. Like, and it can't, and it's drunk. It looks like it's a drunk planet that's like moving erratically, and I'm like, is that a drone or an airplane? Like, cause like I'm just trying to be logical, cause like I'm already like a fucking oddball, and I don't need to like be like run out of the streets, be like a flying saucer. You know what I mean? Like, good lord! But like, I look at this thing quietly. I don't take out my phone or anything. Like, I'm just like, what is that? And it starts becoming light out. I've watched it for like 45 minutes now, and it has moved, but it's still in the same spot relative to me in the sky. It's not a drone, it's not a plane, but now it's whatever it is in the sky. And I don't mean floating above, I mean like it is in the sky. And then it got to the point where it was like really, really bright out, and like traffic is coming out, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to be standing at the end of my yard just like looking up and like, yeah, pointing me, like still amazed. It's like, what is this? What is this? Because like at this point it's like the sun, you know what I mean? Like, so they wouldn't be able to like do you see that? Like nah, dude, what are you looking at? Like,
call the cops, honey.
Me and Brian
Mommy,
have
what's
seen
the strange
we've
man
both seen
doing?
this phenomenon on multiple occasions, never together, I don't think. But the first time I saw it, so I step out of the car into the yard. It's nighttime, and I look up, and it looks like 2 planets. I thought it was Venus and Mercury, kind of, you know, there. And I was like, oh. And then I realized that Venus and Mercury are not together, and they're not supposed to be right there. So I'm like, what the fuck? And they start moving together like this, and one starts going like this, kind of up. And the other one starts going like this, and they come, and they're just like moving around like this, and then they just whoosh, zoom off.
I've seen
fade, and since then I saw, like within a month I saw that like 3 more times, and since then
You are chosen.
Yes. Since then I've probably seen that about 10 times, and a lot of the times,
see, I've seen stuff like that before that I was able to rule off as being like, maybe it's just a comet.
No, if there's
or
a plane
some phenomena,
in the sky,
but like
it will never appear if there's a plane nearby.
Yeah,
I wonder if they were
and I
checking
saw
on you.
one. I was sitting there watching one. I guess maybe a year and a half ago, and I just happened to. I was at my in-laws' house, and they've got a hot tub and pool in their backyard, but they had all the lights off, so it was real nice and dark back there. So I walked out and looked up and immediately saw this little light, you know, and it was moving around in a pretty weird way, and like Garrett said, you know, we've talked about this before, so it's kind of like I knew right away like what it was. So I'm sitting there watching it kind of play around, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a light blink from as a plane was flying over. Mm-hmm. And so I just happened to like glance over there at that plane. It was traveling pretty fast. And then at the same point in time, I looked back at my little light that I'd been watching, and it literally like
blinked out.
It just went. Boop,
That's another thing.
and it was gone.
They blink
right
out
when that plane went by, and it was like,
yeah,
you know.
And I've seen them blink out too.
Yeah.
They'll just be like a glowing ball, and then they'll just
gone
and be gone.
Do you think it wanted you to see it?
I think
I don't know.
They know. And I would talk to it like, what?
Come back!
Let's chill. Because I felt like that it knew that I was looking at it.
It happens more often.
That's how I felt, like, because of just, if you'll notice, like, the view, like, out here is, like, dense trees right across the road, you know? It was positioned perfectly in the darkness to where it's right above the tree to where I would have to see it. Like walking from like the front door to my vehicle, I would have no option but to like witness me. Like, and like that's another reason why I didn't want to take out my phone, because I was like,
as soon as I reach for my phone, it's gone.
But they're fucking with us, like, hey man, up here real quick.
They're like taking bone grips, like, what's this?
We're gonna blow this human's mind real quick.
My brother told me that he's only seen them whenever he trips, but he's seen them. I'm like I don't know about like, because I've seen a lot of things whenever I've tripped before that I could be like, I saw aliens, but we're not like that fucking light in the sky. Right. You know what I mean? Like yeah. I haven't had what was the honeycomb dude from earlier, from the
the shaman guy.
Yeah, like I've seen like entities before that are like that, but never anything that it's like that is something I can't put my fucking finger on. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, and it's amazing. Like, you know, like when you see it, you just know that it's not. There's something not quite right about it. You know?
Yeah. That
it's so
it's
unfamiliar.
Not,
you're like, wait a second. It's like you don't question it. It's you know that that's.
I didn't even have coffee today, so I know I'm not fucked up. Like, this is real shit.
I've also seen more like traditional, like government, maybe craft, where it's like a triangle with like 7 white lights, like making a V on it.
Yeah.
And then it comes to the 7th point, and it's like
camouflaged in the sky.
I've also seen this, so I look at the sky like all the fucking time at night, like almost every night. It's this thing I do. And so this particular night it was kind of cloudy. There was clouds here and there, and I saw these 2 planes coming from a distance, and I was just watching them. And as they're going over my head, like I noticed this black triangle. You couldn't see it. There were no lights on it, but I could see it like against the clouds. And these 2 little planes are like flanking it, like following it, and it's just going.
Some like what was that? A BioShock Infinite, like cities in the sky and whatnot, like that. We don't even know that they exist, but there's like societies and like cities that are like maintained like up in the sky. Like that one surprised me. I've got a few military buddies that say that most of the stuff that we see as UFOs, that's like probably like shit that like the government has met. Yeah, but I would argue they're probably in cahoots with some old world, what we would call alien, right? Like, but they're like extraterrestrial means like from
a different planet.
Well, from different Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
From
like
so like they're like already here, right? Like that there's a reason why we're told like, well, we've already explored everything there is to explore. It's like we don't know shit about our oceans.
About the middle of our Earth, you know?
Yeah, like we've gone 8 miles down into the Earth.
Yeah.
So like the whole theory about like, that's because the core is down there. It's like, well, how do we know? It's all conjecture at that point.
Yeah.
You know.
I think there's like 400,000 miles to the core.
Yeah, and
we've
they've
gone 8.
8.
Yeah, I literally just watched a show on this like 2 or 3 days ago.
How many to the
400,000
core?
miles?
Said it was 400,000 miles.
Yeah.
Sure, it's not fourth. Okay. Yeah.
I heard
That's what the guy said,
somebody was
400,000.
explaining it as like if you took like a pin that you like hang something up with, you like just kind of like without any force just poke it into like an apple. Like that's how far we've
Oh
been
yeah,
to
the
the
atmosphere.
Earth.
I'm pretty sure it was. Now it might have been all the way through, from crust to crust, but I'm pretty sure he said 400,000 miles to the core because he was making the point we've only
Well, how does he
hit a
even know
depth
that?
of
If
8
nobody's-
miles.
How do you even measure that?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
you
well,
have
yeah.
you have to go on what
That in
the
itself
authority
would be-
Right.
the official word is.
Yeah.
What
right?
if like
Oh,
like
It's got DR in
like
front
you
of his
could,
name.
like
It's
you
wearing
calculated
coats.
the
Okay.
the diameter of the Earth, but then as you go into the core, like it's further, like you're going into a different dimension.
Right.
Dinosaurs
Yeah, that whole inner Earth,
and Brendan Fraser.
that's been around forever, man.
There was something Randall Carlson talked about. He brought up a particular argument. I don't know if he supports this argument, but the argument was that the pyramids are actually the shape of the planet, and that like the top of the pyramid, the ancients believed that was the North Pole, and everything was sort of laid out, and that we were
Badass album cover.
and we were somewhere near the top of the pyramid. And then when you get to the top of the pyramid, then the tree of life, you descend inward
Right.
and evolve on that realm of the pyramid.
Well, that's fucking
That's interesting.
But they also talk about there's maybe a possibility because now you can't dig there anymore, right? Like the
Right.
Egyptian government won't let you.
Right.
So like the
They won't
official
do
word,
anything.
so the official word, even though there's water erosion that's like I think like 12,000
Oh, yeah,
years
it's
old on the
yeah.
Sphinx. The argument is that no, it's 2000 BC,
Right, yeah.
2500 BC.
But this is water erosion that takes thousands of years to even like erode away this rock.
Yeah,
But it is only
yeah.
1,000
I
years
heard
old.
something pretty interesting too.
But that real quick, but that the bottom half of the pyramid would be the rest of
It's
the
like
was
a
it
diamond.
the tetrahedra? I
Yeah.
forget the
Yeah.
As above,
polygon's
so
name.
below.
Yeah, exactly. And that
Yeah,
there would be things that about Earth that were there's a reason why we've only gone like 8 miles down and it been effective. Like
Right.
I think somebody had a model of like a shape of the Earth that was like a donut that like went in and out of itself, and it still worked when you put in the like this set of like a gyroscope or an organ inside of a god, right? That like
Yeah.
going back to the cellular argument. Like I think all these things, like why could it be possible? I've just seen like way too many things in the as far as like what they've just taught people to just blindly accept, and when you sort of much to the benefit of experiencing psychedelia, but whenever you're able to sort of take a step back from your ego and sort of look back and say like, okay, how's the world really operate? What is really good in the world? What is like a
Right.
purposeful? Because purpose is abundant in Earth. Like if one man can find a purpose, and surely another man can find purpose as well. And it happens over and over again. And you don't even have to have one purpose. Like there's so many different purposes with Earth.
Right.
But to the ancients, as far as like how they set up the pyramid and whatnot, wouldn't it be really fascinating if they were allowed to keep digging at some of these places where they're like, hey, look, there's stuff here underground. How about we keep digging it up?
There's
Right.
definitely some stuff there underground. Like there has to be.
Have you guys ever heard about the mud flood?
Oh, this is another H.P. Lovecraft
Yeah,
thing
that
that
just
he like
happened in there.
foretold.
What?
What do you guys come here first?
Mud flood.
Blood flood.
Well,
Vogue.
there's also like
No
they-
topic is left
Um,
behind.
there are stones on the Giza plateau that have giant circular saw cuts made into them, so when you make a circular saw cut, it makes
Right.
this,
Yeah,
Make
but the
lots of
saws
them.
are like
But
25
they would have
feet
to
tall.
be. They would have to be like a 40-foot
Yeah.
diameter saw to do this, to make the pattern into the rock like this. But they're clean cuts, so it's definitely like a circular saw cut that only a circular saw could have made.
Right.
And they also have like boreholes made with like giant drill bits.
I've seen stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That I don't think any of that stuff's like correct, and I think a lot of it is folks just don't know, but because they've been paid by people that say like, well, this is what's official, so we don't want to ruffle any feathers.
Yeah.
Like they're good people. Bill's a good dude. He's been teaching archaeology here for 38 years. We don't want to tell him he's been wrong and all of his books are wrong. Well, I get that. Yeah, Bill is a really good dude. But the mud flood it postulates that some sort of giant Earth event happened somewhere between the these guys Spacebusters were talking about it in the grand solar minimum, the last grand solar minimum, which would have been like some sort of an ice age, and whenever it changed over to the grand solar maximum, which we're leaving, but which the planet to where the planet increases in temperature, that there are all these cataclysmic events that the Earth has to discharge its electromagnetism some way. So the sun is the big driving factor, so it's discharging from all this heat and solar radiation. So whenever it's done, it starts cooling off. Now the Earth has to discharge all of its electromagnetism. So you have cataclysm events where you have like lightning storms or volcanic eruptions or earthquakes, or in some things soil liquefaction, which can happen when the Earth will vibrate a certain temperature to where particles of Earth act like liquid themselves.
Like turning to quicksand?
Quicksand is, even putting it mildly, like everything just instantly just boom, sinks down. Where like mountains and oceans essentially are of a similar medium. Like that intense of a shock wave. There was something that happened in America in a town called New Madrid in I think it was like 1812, which would have been it was 1811, I think, December 1811 through February 1812. There were 6 cataclysmic earthquakes in this town. Now, the interesting thing about this town, New Madrid, is that it's on the Mississippi Valley. The Mississippi Valley, this is in either Tennessee or Kentucky, but it's in the middle of the tectonic plate. So where you would see like heavy earthquakes repeatedly of this magnitude would be like where 2 tectonic plates, like the San Andreas fault line is at. Like you would see stuff like that happen. But it was like really unheard of to see like this magnitude in like, I think it was like 8 weeks, had 6 like devastating earthquakes. So there seems to be all this other stuff that they tie in with going on in the year 1812, where there was all this a low point as far as the relationship between the solar radiation and Earth, and like how life could grow. That it had was just starting its climb up, where the sun would start discharging more, and all these wars that were happening at the same time, like the War of 1812 started happening. More colonies from Europe started declaring war in South America and other places, and even maps. I didn't know this, but maps predating I think it's like 1811 or 1812 show California as an island. Like and then like they all changed it, and like that's, I don't know, I like that stuff. Like it makes sense then if they're like, well, don't dig, because why? Because all of these like cities, you'll see like what they built these cities on top of. So like some of the argument is in the Americas that some of these old school buildings that you'll see in like places like Philadelphia, or even like out west in like Salt Lake City, these like magnificent cathedrals, that they were already there, but because they were damaged by whatever this cataclysm was, that they just sort of built on top because the foundation was already too far down, but they didn't want to build a new foundation on top, so they just kept building more stories onto an existing building. And you see this like repeatedly that'll happen in any major city, where you'll see like doors and dormers where it's like, oh, there used to be a door there.
Chattanooga, Tennessee's like that.
Wow.
and there's no record of them doing anything, like trying to repair buildings or anything like that. But there's an entire story of buildings. The whole city has like an entire story of buildings that's underground, and scientists are baffled by it because they said they know at some point in time they either had to have like a massive effort to fill in, the bottom 16 feet, but they can't. There's no record of it ever happening. But they can look at the doors. They can look at, you'll be walking by a building and you'll see like the top part of a window, like pediment, right there buried in the sidewalk.
What?
Well, it makes me think about earlier we were talking about the common ways for spirits to travel through, and if they're just building buildings on top of other buildings, like what sort of like energetic residue is there?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Oof. Big oof.
Big oof.
Oh, so back to the whole pyramid thing. Just a quick fact. I heard that in the Old Testament, Noah's Ark is represented as a pyramid. I'd never heard that before, but supposedly in the Old Testament, and so there's these doors by it's a relief sculpture by a famous artist. I don't know at the time, but I think it's at the Vatican, and so one of his panels on these doors, it has Noah's Ark represented as a pyramid.
Sweet.
And so I guess, they started looking at it and thought that was really cool. But so apparently back in the Old Testament, it's depicted as a pyramid, not a big boat, which I thought it's weird.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Is that like the theory that the pyramid is actually like a spaceship?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying this pyramid,
Or
just
like a
keeps
capsule.
popping up, man.
A conduit or like a converter or something like that.
Yeah.
Channel satellite at least.
Just that image of the pyramid just keeps kind of resurfacing.
Oh, speaking of
everywhere.
pyramids are fucking amazing.
They're really
So,
weird.
I made this pyramid out of straws and tape. It's 8 straws. It's a pyramid.
Well, he was sitting there. I was picturing mine. I'm like, golly, man, it'd be fun to make a pyramid.
Please make a pyramid. So if you hang this pyramid by a string, make sure there's no airflow so you don't, so you can prove it to yourself. But it will start spinning counterclockwise because of apparently because of the shape of a pyramid, it pushes like electrons up, and at the vertex of the pyramid, it makes the vertex. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it has a few vertexes, but yeah.
Well, the apex.
There you go.
It makes a vortex. And I think that's what causes it to spin. But it will spin. It will fucking spin. It's awesome. And also, you can put it over like a plant, and the plant will grow faster. You can put an apple in there, and the apple will not oxidize. You know how it turns brown when you cut it?
Yeah.
So, and that's why. So obviously, the Great Pyramids aren't they're not tombs. There's no burial chambers in there, but some of them are. The smaller ones. And I guess that's why they put them in there, to mummify, because it basically dehydrates you and it keeps you from oxidizing.
Right.
So that's really cool. So pyramids are it's more there than just the shape.
Somebody was talking about that. Egypt back before it was dominated by the Sahara, the desert, that. It was essentially the graveyard of the world. That's where you went to, if you were of high status, you went to be buried in Egypt with because that's where enlightenment and all this. It was the hub of the world for a while.
VIP.
Yeah, Africa was the hub of the world. Then it turned into Arabia. Then it turned into Rome. And now it's America. Is the hub of it.
Did you see that? I think it was a Ancient Aliens episode where they were talking about how the pyramids some of them are everybody's talking about, and then some of them are amplifiers, just because of how all the tunnels are made or something like that, and they can amplify sound and have things vibrate or something like that. Yeah. And that's how they move all the stones or something similar to that. They were using sound wave vibration.
So you can levitate shit with sound.
Yeah.
If you get the right frequency,
Right. And
Um,
I think I don't know. I just think that's
it's like an anti-gravity sound wave.
I think that could probably liquefy the stones and
That's
pour
another.
them.
That's another
true.
possibility.
That still using the same way, like using vibrations, because like that is awesome about the pyramids, that like you can go in there and it's kind of so with cathedrals, like you can go in there and
And it makes
like
this beautiful.
It's like a whole choir. That you.
Let me. I'm gonna pull that up. People singing in the pyramids, and it's got these. It's like a terraced shape roof, and it amplifies the sound, and they're tuned to a note.
Mm-hmm.
This one I'm thinking of is specifically is tuned to A,
C flat.
so it's. Let's see here.
I was reading this stuff about Pythagoras and how like he, I guess, or his slaves or workshop, whatever, he gets the credit, but first started like discovering like things like harmony and tone and pitch, and just like the genius that was involved with that, with like a ratio of 3 to 2 would get you a different than a ratio of like 3 to 1 or 5 to 2 or like all this stuff. I'm like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Like I see 12 choices and then it starts over. Like,
Right.
That's the same way on the piano. It's just like, all right, so I got these 12, and then it just starts over, and I can make whatever I want with that. Cool, I got you.
Guitars are amazing.
It's amazing how
It's all
complex that is. But
But
like,
one time I was on mushrooms, and I picked up a guitar, and I just understood more than I could possibly, explain or even think about right now. Like I just realized what this was and how it worked, and at that moment I could play anything.
I'm better at communicating through an instrument on psychedelia than I am with my mouth.
Oh,
Like-
dude, I used to do the craziest shit while I was on mushrooms with a guitar. Like you would just be in awe.
One of
I
my
would blow my own mind. I'd be like,
one of my
man,
favorite
trying to do
things.
my fingers.
you would not be able to see my fingers move. I would be playing so
Yeah.
fast.
One of my favorite things to do was always just tell somebody else, just like just put on some music, and they'd be like, well, aren't you gonna play? I'm like, yeah, just put on music, man. You put on whatever you want, and then I'll just sit my little guitar down quietly. I'll just find whatever it is. I'll just ad lib, just play along.
Yeah, it's
And
fun.
and not know where the music's gonna take me, and not have the choice of like choosing the key or the tempo or anything, and just seeing what I can come up with. I always like that about other musicians. It's one thing I love about Blake. Blake is the only musician in Valdosta I have ever met that I've been able to stand with more than one band or more than one iteration of bands before. Like,
well, you definitely make it difficult. No, I think it's just you lock in with somebody, and I think a lot of it has to do with we got a lot of the same background as far as music tastes go. So it's like
and
we've
humor
got that
as well.
we've got like we've been listening to it so much, like we've got those neural pathways there. It's like, oh yeah, well, I've listened to that so much, I'm probably gonna go this direction with it, and it's just like, I don't know. That it's easy to play with you guys too. It was almost like instant.
Yeah.
Like I was like, wow, you listen to everything I listen to, and you play like what I listen to anyway.
Right.
So it's just easy to just like hop right in.
Just
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we knew you for like 3 days and played our first gig together.
yeah, that's exactly.
And then jamming, and it's just like jamming, so you, like having a conversation. You're just doing it with instruments that some old dude had a lot of time on his hands. The cat is trying to get in the cupboard for the treats.
Those aren't even where the trees
He's had a lot of. He's like, I know where the nip is, buddy.
That's your
Bring
counter.
it
He has his own counter.
Well, it made me think of earlier when you were talking about Pythagoras and he was developing the Western music system. I was like, you had to have a lot of time on your hands with like little distraction. It's like, how can you get anything done with like porn and Red Dead Redemption? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many distractions where it's like hard to make like a
We are very distracted.
magnum opus like that. You know,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous.
We're very distracted as a people.
Yeah, it's I don't like it. I'm also like, a hypocrite because I know that like after this is done, you guys leave here. I'm gonna hop online so I can upload everything. You know what I mean? Like, but it does worry me. Like I'll see like some people and like how they post. I'm just like, well, you're just putting it all out there still, huh?
Yeah, right.
Like, all right, cool. I've been trying to become more conscientious about what I'm doing and like.
You save the gems.
Well, I try to make
put
sure
all the rocks out there.
I try to make sure I've been kind of slacking off the past couple of weeks, but I mean, it's holidays, shit happens. But I try to make sure that like I'm still being productive in some sort of way. You know what I mean? Like so with something with creating, so either like working on music or having a podcast or like doing something.
That's that yin yang. That's you're either consuming or you're creating.
Yeah,
and I don't know. It's just a lot more fun to create.
Hands down. Yeah.
Well, I will have to say, it's so much easier now to, just to throw a video together or throw a song together and send it out.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So even though we are very distracted, like just with my kids, I've noticed their brains just move so fast. I can't keep up with it.
Yeah.
But they're flipping through the little Instagram things, and it's, kids doing a song, kid dancing, whatever. There's a billion things to look at. So in a way, it is very distracting, but in a way, there's a lot of creativity flowing right now.
You're so much more connected to everyone else. Mm-hmm. And so it's a double-edged sword.
It really is.
Because,
just like anything. Yeah.
See a lot of good, and I see a lot of bad.
Yeah. Then I think what's really bad is the electromagnetic fields that these fucking things are putting off. And you're just like saturated in them.
I read an article.
I can totally, if I'm laying in bed trying to go to sleep, I can feel that fucking thing. If I move it away, it's like a relief.
Yeah.
For real.
It's like kids with AirPods just walking around with like 2 microwaves between their ears.
Well, I just read this article yesterday about scientists. It's always the scientists doing things, but so they did some kind of study, and so the Earth is producing a human now because of all of our devices and everything that we're doing. So we're producing an electromagnetic field that can be detected out in space, and not only that, but it's helping block some of the sun's radiation.
Oh, thank God.
So we have created our own little
ozone layer of electromagnetic.
But
we're cooking ourselves at the same time.
Yeah. So, but they were saying like this is the only benefit that humans have done, for space or whatever.
Plastic. That's what we're here for.
Anyway. But yeah, so apparently we're producing our own electromagnetic field now. It's not just the Earth doing it.
Yeah, and I wonder how the Earth feels about it.
Whenever the Ice Age comes and everybody's like, where the fuck is the heat?
Right.
Oh my gosh.
It was really cool. I'll have to find that.
The Earth is actually making a sound. Well, I mean, obviously, all everything is making a sound. Even it's making a sound. You can't hear it because it's too small to. It's very imperceivable.
Supposedly the sun makes
the vibration.
Yeah, supposedly the sun makes the same sound that birds mimic, and that's why in the morning birds will. Yeah.
That's really weird.
Tweet.
Call.
The bird.
It'll do, y'all.
The bird section of the podcast.
Tune in next time for the porpoise.
Imagine someone skips from the beginning of the podcast when we're talking about like mushrooms and shit to this, and we're like,
we're running the whole gambit.
This show is brought to you by Animal Planet, so I told them I would give them at least 10 minutes of animal talk. That's not true. Nobody sponsors this show.
Animals.
Not yet.
What, fellas?
You don't happen to have a actual cancer device, do you?
I don't.
Nice.
I stopped tobacco. Stop tobacco. Nicotine will be the next thing to go.
Want to hit this?
Yeah.
Makes you feel a little dizzy.
Oh, I'm trying to get lifted.
takes all your bad feelings and turns them into good feelings.
No, dude, you don't want that.
You don't.
I think I want that.
So, guys, we got 2 hours and 20-some minutes or so.
Some jaw wagging around there.
Yeah. Thank you guys for coming on the show, man.
Yeah,
for
Thanks
this.
for providing, man.
Good,
That's
good to
great.
conclude the show with some bird noises.
It was
It's a nice ending to it.
That was very pleasant. I feel very calm and peaceful now.
So where can
Yeah.
folks find Soul Machine's music at?
Spotify, YouTube. We have a YouTube channel with like live videos and stuff, and lots of awesome playlists.
What is
put
that?
together?
At
That's Soul Machine,
Band.
just Soul Machine
Yeah.
at YouTube. You'll know it by the triple spiral, profile picture. And we got the songs we've released are on Spotify and iTunes and Apple Music, all that.
Thanks to
All that
John and
LimeWire. Our Instagram is Soul Machine Band. What else?
They're
That's
blasting
about
some
it.
Christmas tunes next
Yeah,
door.
they are rocking out over there. What about the gig? Did we tell about the gig
We've got
on New Year's?
We've got a New Year's Eve gig coming up at Ashley Street Station.
Oh, nice.
It's gonna be fucking awesome.
I
Nice.
think it
We
will
need
be.
we gotta
all-nighter.
we need to go work on that actually.
Good idea.
Heck yeah.
Mama Stone will be opening for us. So shout out to Mama Stone.
Yeah, I just met Owen. I just played a show like a week or two ago. It's like the first time I played in
Yeah,
like 2 years.
you-
I met Owen. I like him. He's a good,
Yeah, he's awesome.
good performer.
Yeah, he's an awesome musician.
Hell yeah. Well, Blake, Garrett, Brian, Soul Sisters. Thank you guys so much for coming on, man.
Thank
Yeah, we
you.
appreciate
Thanks,
it.
bro.
Oh yeah. We'll if you guys want, we'll put some music here at the end. If not, go check out Soul Machine. Later, guys.